What's up, J-Brones? Live from Brooklyn, New York and Moncton, New Brunswick, Canada, this is the Torture Rack Podcast. I am your host, Marc Basque. My co-host is John F. Malta, and we are very happy to be here with you, our friends in wrestling. John, say something. Let the people know you're alive, pal.
Dude, the magazine is finished.
Done.
Issue 4, sent off to the printer, locked down, printed, in the books. The proof should be here like within a week or so, week and a half, I'd say.
That is so exciting.
Yeah, I could not be more psyched. Thank you you've been copy editing it for the last couple of days with Thomas.
It's my absolute pleasure. It gave me a chance to sit down and read the whole thing. And readers, you are in for a treat because it is a fantastic magazine. About 150 pages of pure wrestling love. Some great photographs from Japan. John, what else is in there?
Yeah, the issue's subtitled Tokyo Pro Wrestle Dreamland and features a 100-plus page article on my trip to Wrestle Kingdom at the start of this year with our friend Thomas, who also wrote an article for the magazine. And I just could not be more excited to get this out into the world. In celebration, I'm wearing my New Japan ring-worn ref t-shirt. I don't know which ref wore the shirt.
Is it Red Shoes?
I would hope that that's who wore it. Maybe Marty Asami. Probably not. I would say Red Shoes, maybe because he and I are more of a similar frame than me and Marty Asami.
Oh, so interesting. That's some Sherlock Holmes deduction work.
Yeah, it's like every single day there was something new to be excited about. By far, my favorite experience was going to Todokan Shop, which is where I got the shirt that I'm wearing today. And just going through the archives there was a completely surreal and, I don't know, one of the greatest experiences I've ever had. It's like if you could go to a museum of a thing that you loved, but then you could also afford to buy things at that museum. That's what Todokan Shop is.
What kind of stuff did you pick up at the Todokan Shop?
On my shelf to the left is a 13-inch Jushin Thunder Liger scale model that I still have to put together, but that probably is my favorite item that I found there.
Is it like a model airplane that you have to put
It's
together?
like an actual model kit. Yeah, that's like a pretty popular part of early Japanese wrestling figures is model kits.
That's
There's
awesome.
Cool Bull Nakano model kits, Antonio Inoki model kits. There's a lot of model kits for early Japanese wrestlers, and they all look great and come in cool boxes. The packaging on them is real sick. Yeah, just going through that shop was really surreal, and just being in Tokyo for the first time, basically thanks to pro wrestling, was such a great experience. And one of the main reason that I pulled the trigger and decided to go last year was because the storyline that was culminating was the Tetsuya Naito's Double Gold Dash and his quest for glory, which also today, the morning that we're recording this, New Japan is back in action, which is so cool and so exciting. But yeah, the Double Gold Dash, just watching it over the past couple of years, was such a satisfying story in a way that I don't know that many other forms of media can tell the story that was told with Naito becoming champion. Going all the way back to Wrestle Kingdom 12, which is where he lost to Okada in the main event. But even going further back to Wrestle Kingdom 8, where his match was downvoted by the fans to not be the main event match, and the Intercontinental title held the main event spot for that.
So are the fans actually able to downvote a match? Is there some sort of wrestling democracy in Japan?
That was just something weird New Japan did that for Wrestle Kingdom 8.
Due to fan, request or whatever.
Yeah, the match that headlined was Nakamura versus Tanahashi. I feel like by the fans of New Japan, and myself included, Naito has been a fan favorite. If you go to a New Japan show, everyone's wearing LIJ gear, more so than seeing Okada shirts. But from the company's perspective, you would think that Okada is the guy, and he is the guy. But yeah, seeing the storyline of Naito kind of achieving greatness, securing his win at the Double Gold Dash.
For the uninitiated, what is the Double Gold Dash? What does that mean?
So it's a storyline that started happening like mid last year, it's been Naito's story this whole time. He has had there was a moment where like Okada was on an extremely long title reign with the IWGP Heavyweight title.
Mm-hmm.
So Naito had that Intercontinental title, and within that time period, he didn't care about the Intercontinental title. He looked down upon it, even though he was holding the title. He just didn't care, and because everyone wants the IWGP Heavyweight title, which is what Okada held. So he started saying, I don't remember exactly when he started saying this, but he was the first of the 4 people a part of this storyline, which was named the Double Gold Dash, who started saying he wanted to be the first New Japan double champion, meaning he would hold the Intercontinental title and the IWGP Heavyweight title. And
for the first time ever in New Japan history.
In New Japan's history, yeah. First time that this was going to happen within the history of the company, and he is the first person to do that. And over the last year, people were added to that story. Like the second, I was like, oh, this is the story moving forward. The second Kota Ibushi, I think it was just after the G1 where he said, I'm going to be double champion at Wrestle Kingdom. But it just seemed to me, from watching it so closely and being so into Naito's storyline, that it's like, okay, well, we'll have him start saying that. And then Jay White started saying that too. And then I was like, well, the 3 of them, Okada never said that. Okada kind of was just like, yeah, I'm the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. I don't really care about the Intercontinental title. I don't need to be the double champion because I am the champion, basically. So the Double Gold Dash, to put it simply, more brief, was a storyline between Switchblade Jay White, Kota Ibushi, Tetsuya Naito, and the Rainmaker, Kazuchika Okada, over the last, like, maybe 6 months from midsummer 2019 to January 2020, where at Wrestle Kingdom there was a double main event. Night 1, Naito fights Jay White and Okada fights Ibushi. Okada wins, retains the title. Naito wins, beats Jay White, which was a pretty big deal because all of last year Jay White kept predicting things and they kept coming true.
Right, it was like me in my Intercontinental article. Everything he said would come true. Everything I said would come true.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
No, totally. Yeah, it's like, and being there for Wrestle Kingdom, both of these nights, like I kept joking to you and Thomas that I was going to stop watching New Japan if Naito didn't win this weekend, which was kind of a joke, but also like a half-truth where it's like, this is Naito's story. Like, sure, things can change, and like maybe the longer story Gedo would have told us would have been just as satisfying. But then on night 2, it set up Okada versus Naito, and with it, the match is so good. It was my favorite match of Wrestle Kingdom this year. I know a lot of people are very high on the Ibushi Okada match, which also incredible match. Loved that match. It just didn't tell the story that the Naito match did. And for me, as a professional wrestling fan, I feel like I care most about story more so than maybe work rate. I don't know how you feel, Mark.
I was just thinking about how spoiled you can be as a New Japan viewer, where you're like, if I don't get the perfect conclusion to this story that's been playing out for 4 years, I'm out. Whereas on WWE, like, Vince McMahon literally throws out the script like every Friday for SmackDown, so they can't do any long-term storytelling. It's just basically based on the whims of one crazy billionaire octogenarian. So it's just really cool. And for me, my favorite wrestling story of 2019 is actually a little bit of a zoom out on this, which is just you watching this whole story play out. Like, I remember you talking about this during the G1, and you were certain that Naito was going to win the G1.
Oh, I was livid.
Because
I was so mad he didn't win.
That would have very easily set up, if he had won the G1, he's number one contender to the IWGP Heavyweight title, which Okada's holding, so then they could have done a one-on-one winner take all the belts. And Okada almost would have been an interesting choice to win because he, like you said, he's the only one who didn't talk about how he wanted them both. So he would have just, it would have just been another feather in his cap, solidifying him as perhaps the greatest, NJPW wrestler
in New Japan history.
So I remember you watching that. I remember you saying, if Naito does not win both titles, you were done with wrestling, and you're done with New Japan, and you did not sound like you were kidding at the time. So
I think I probably would have taken a break had I traveled all the way to Tokyo I mean, I was excited about professional wrestling that whole weekend. The whole trip was that.
So
but anyways,
just imagine what's going on here, which is that the booker of New Japan, Gedo, is crafting this magnificent story of 4 years, and John has got his finger on the pulse. Like, he's like, I get what you're telling me. Don't fuck this up. And so you're watching it. You're like, how is this going to play out? He did not win the G1. Who ended up winning G1? Oh, Ibushi won the G1. But then they changed Wrestle Kingdom 14 to a 2-night event. Therefore, the IWGP and the Intercontinental title would be defended twice. And so the first night, there, like you said, it was Ibushi Okada and Naito Jay White for the Intercontinental. And then the final night, it was the two winners, Okada and Naito. And so this match happens. John talks about it beautifully in the article. We're not doing it justice here, just kind of this whole weekend to Japan. At Wrestle Kingdom, night 2, John and Thomas are watching this match. Naito defeats the stalwart NJPW champion Okada, and the next cut on this New Japan feed goes directly from this pinfall to who in the crowd but John and Thomas hugging, screaming. It's incredible. What an incredible ending to this story. Not even Gedo could have predicted how much you would love this.
And how much it meant to me. Yeah, there's not the only within the article, the only other thing I could think to compare it to was David Lynch returning to Twin Peaks, and specifically Dale Cooper's character within Twin Peaks. Like, I loved Twin Peaks. I've loved Twin Peaks for a while, and just before David Lynch was considering doing a new season, just constantly postulated with my little brother where the story went after season 2. And maybe we'd even go as far as like going back to, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds of Twin Peaks, but just going back to like before he kind of left the show and thinking about where it might have gone had he not done that, and then he came back. But anyways, within Twin Peaks, for those who maybe aren't familiar with Twin Peaks, there's this great character, Special Agent Dale Cooper. Early 90s, he's ripping it up in the FBI. Show goes away.
You might have heard, that's a damn fine cup of coffee.
Exactly.
Sorry, that was my perfect Dale Cooper impression.
Spot on. I closed my eyes and I seen Dale Cooper.
Well,
you should have been talking into recorder with that impression.
We're gonna start doing the audio drops on here, so I'll just drop in Dale Cooper being like,
"This is, excuse me, a damn fine cup of coffee."
But for like two decades, this character's just been sort of in limbo. And then we come back to this third season of Twin Peaks, and he's still in limbo because he's not himself. But then, right at the end of the series, Cooper is no longer Dougie, and he's Cooper.
You jumped a whole thing there about Dougie.
I don't care. Whoever is listening to this that likes Twin Peaks will understand this analogy, and anyone else just can understand that it's
everyone
about,
else can just go screw, basically.
Decades-long, nuanced story with so many details that there's really the only way to compare it to something else would be to compare it to something like David Lynch returned to Twin Peaks,
right?
And Dale
that was
Cooper
able to play out over so
himself.
many years. Yeah,
like how do you there's not really like a movie character or like a TV show character in that way that I feel like carries the same sort of like nuanced weight, where it's like, sure, there's like long-term stories you could be watching in a movie or like a TV show over the years, but the satisfying sort of like, he finally did it. There was this one moment where it made sense for Naito to win, and he wins. And even just the nuanced references within the actual match that he has with Okada, like when he went up for this Stardust Press in Wrestle Kingdom 14, and he hit it and then didn't pin Okada. When I was there, I was like, I think he might. I don't know. Maybe he's not going to win. Like, my heart like sunk when that happened, because the last time, and like
what would your life even be like right now if Okada?
I know,
had won
totally.
that match?
We wouldn't have this podcast, I don't think.
Oh, absolutely not.
But So, because in Wrestle Kingdom 12, Naito misses it, and that's sort of the inciting incident to end the match, that ends the match and leads to Naito losing. 2 years later, Wrestle Kingdom 14, me and Thomas are there, hits the Stardust Press, doesn't hit the pinfall, does some more back and forth with Okada to ultimately hit the Destino for the 1-2-3, and then becomes double champion.
Well, I mean, there's no other way to end this story except with the Destino, because you have the greatest commentator in the world, Kevin Kelly, who's going to obviously... Can we get an impression of the Kevin Kelly call?
I don't know if I can do it justice.
I would have to back away from the mic, but it's like, Destino!
That was pretty good.
Nah, it was no good. That was trash.
But yeah, it's just like walking away from that and seeing that the storytelling, it's just like insane that there is a booker and a wrestling promotion that is able to tell such intelligent, well thought out, well planned stories over such long periods of time. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of stories that have been playing out over a long period of time, although not necessarily under the same booker, we have the story of the eventual clash between FTR and the Young Bucks on AEW Dynamite.
Yeah, that is a good comparison. That's definitely one that's been cooking for a while. New Japan is back. Within the New Japan Cup brackets for this year, the way that I have it set up is Sonata would go through and face many of his faction members. In the first round, he would beat Taguchi, Shingo beats Sho, and then Sonata and Shingo face off, with Sonata winning, and then the finals being Hiromu versus Sonata, which would be a really, really insane match. Also, maybe it'll just be a surprise and it doesn't have to tie to any of the existing storylines. Man, I'm so excited that New Japan is back. Just thinking about all the other people that are in New Japan too, it's crazy.
No matter who wins this tournament, no matter if the story plays out or a new one thing is for certain, there is going to be a lot of really great matches, and we will try to recommend some of them as they come up for those who maybe have not watched New Japan yet, but who are looking to dip some toes in.
Absolutely.
So we'll make some recommendations.
In general, though, with the New Japan Cup, I genuinely don't care who wins the New Japan Cup right now. And I would be cool to see whoever win the New Japan Cup. I don't know, kind of just, it's crazy to think just the amount of wrestlers that exist in New Japan, the amount of people that could be champion. It's similar to what AEW has done over this past year and a half, of signing people, building people up, and then getting to a point where like a lot of the people that could challenge for the belts right now, I feel like I would be fine if they won. I don't know how you feel about that, but
well, I just think it's cool that they are doing such a good job setting up both A storylines but also B storylines with a lot of wrestlers. You know, it's like, didn't Darby Allin recently say he was going to get his revenge on Brian Cage because of what Cage did to him in the casino ladder match?
Yeah, totally. And that's just a secondary, that's like a far tertiary storyline.
Yeah, that's like after Cage, if he loses to Moxley, that's like his next storyline. So it's like they're always planting these little seeds. You know, WWE tends to jump the gun on everything. They tell these stories very slowly. Like the breakup of Hangman and Kenny has been teased for months, right?
Yeah, and might not happen.
It might not even happen.
Or for at least a while, yeah.
They're telling a lot of stories. They're playing this kind of game of chess, and I love seeing how it plays out. And the one, like I mentioned before, that I'm the most excited about right now is the eventual collision between FTR and the Young Bucks, because there's been so much confusion between, do these guys have animosity outside the ring? Do they respect each other inside the ring? Like, do FTR actually think the Young Bucks are just spot monkeys? Do they actually not think that they'll have a great match with them? Or do they think this is our dream competitors? And you can't really tell, and the story they're telling is very interesting.
Well, and at the moment, they're kind of defending the Young Bucks.
They're defending the Young Bucks. So basically, FTR and Butcher and the Blade had a great match. Opening match, one of the best TV matches of the year, in my opinion. No frills, just great wrestling between these two kind of bruiser tag teams. And then afterwards, the Young Bucks enter, and they're going to get hit by Butcher and the Blade once again. And then FTR once again defends them from the Butcher and the Blade, saying that they don't want them to be injured whatsoever when they fight FTR. They want them to be at the top of their game because they want to show
they want to be the ones that showing that they're better
handily.
than the Young Bucks. Totally.
Yeah, they're going to beat them in like 5 minutes.
Dude, Butcher and Blade versus FTR was so good. I rewatched that match. It's been this year I have not rewatched a Dynamite yet, and this was the first Dynamite that I actually rewatched for no reason, just because I wanted to rewatch it, and I thought it was great. Yeah, there's a really funny moment on commentary in that match where Jericho says something about the Butcher being a great rock and roll guitar player. And then
like, JR,
you know that, Jim Ross? Yeah, and then Jim Ross just so glumly says he's a bass player. Like, it's...
He's actually a bass player.
It was a really funny moment on commentary. It seemed like just like, because Jericho is so good because he throws out just like definitive statements that aren't always true, or like not, they're like inflammatory kind of, and then commentary deals with them. It's why he's great on commentary. And
he is absolutely in peak form on commentary. He's like a great, who does he remind me of? I don't know if it's Jesse the Body Ventura or...
He is like Macho Man. Like, it's like when like the characters of the 90s, like Jesse Ventura, I think Jesse Ventura is a better comparison than Macho Man. Like, just
but
the
still,
way...
just like a larger than life character who
like
just
huge
comes
character
on the mic
commentary
and just is screaming everything. Jericho killed it. Like, I laughed so much in this episode. I know I have things written down. I don't have anything written down for this match, but this match was full of like great big moves. There's a moment where Cash Wheeler countered the leapfrog into a power slam. There was just like this huge brain buster. Around the end of the match, Dax has Butcher or Blade up for the superplex, tags Cash, does the superplex, and then Cash hits the big splash from half the ring length away. Such a cool move. They just were working in synchronicity. The moves were heavy. You know, the match had time to breathe, but it was never slow. Ended with a stuffed pile driver, which is now called the Mind Breaker.
That's such
a good name.
Firing on all cylinders with all these finisher names. I love that finisher name.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's another good. Good Night Express was another. They do that on the. There's a great still that AEW posted to Instagram of the FTR doing that move to Butcher, and they kind of have to pick him up like horizontally, and Butcher is such a big guy, so it's crazy that they can do that move on him
totally
so smoothly. That I love that match. What do you, in terms of like the direction of the tag division, who do you actually think is going to be the next tag champs? And by that I mean, how soon do you think the Butcher and the Blade will be holding the tag titles?
I think you're going to be upset.
One of my favorites.
I think you're going to be upset at how long it's going to take the Butcher. I think Butcher and the Blade are enhancement talent. As good as they are, I think they're there to make other people look good. And I'm very sorry. I can see just the joy draining off your face as you say that. Well, the end of this match was weird. I loved the match, but I did not like the sort of after-match shenanigans. The Young Bucks come to the ring, and also...
Yeah, Super Bad Death Squad
came to the ring. They're all just kind of standing there.
It's a weird moment. There's a couple moments throughout this show that... Maybe I think it was a show too, where there was like brawling, but it seemed kind of too planned brawling instead of like all hell is breaking loose. All the tag divisions pouring out and they're ready to fight each other.
Yeah,
because it almost seemed because like the faces cleared the ring, then we ended up with the Bucks, FTR, Hangman, and Kenny in ring, and then Butcher, Blade, Super Bad Death Squad on the outside of the ring. And they were kind of just looking at each other like, what do we do next? And there was one moment that I liked with them in ring. I don't know if you noticed this while we were watching. I don't think we called attention to it while we were watching it together. Where FTR, I don't know, one of the dudes in FTR is yelling at Hangman and like poking him in the chest, telling him that he needs to get his shit together. So I wonder if that's like going to lead to... Like, I wonder if FTR is going to be next in line for the titles. They win. And Hangman defects and starts a faction with FTR.
Oh my god.
And Hangman maybe is the cause of the loss as well. Like, it's like a double
oh wow,
a turn.
I don't know, but that actually sounds a lot like my prediction for another storyline, which is that it seems like they're teasing that Sammy Guevara is going to leave the Inner Circle because Matt Hardy keeps kind of,
it seems like Hardy's trying to start like a faction. That's sort of the.
Seems like Hardy's trying to start a faction with Private Party
and Sammy, maybe.
Sammy Guevara.
That was the other moment. Was that in this week's show where Matt Hardy comes out with Private Party in a chair? I think it was in this show. But that moment, too, seemed kind of weird because, like, Private Party kind of go around someone to, like, then do the chair shot, but it's, like, a back chair shot, so it seems very, like, kind of staged in such a not in a way that was like, okay, we've come out now and we need to do this spot where we're going to hit you with a chair, so get in position.
Right.
It didn't feel chaotic in the way that a lot of those moments normally feel.
That might have been last week, actually.
I think I think that was last week. Then there was the post-match promo with Natural Nightmares.
Okay.
This whole convoluted
okay.
The lengths that AEW is going to explain why Natural Nightmares are getting a title shot. I don't know. Like, they should just, like, if they're gonna, I'm glad that that's happening on TV and not Fyter Fest and Best Friends are getting
absolutely
like the big,
what I feel.
Event.
You know what? Listen, there's a lot of TV to fill between pay-per-views. Let people get title shots. I'm okay with that. I think you know that Natural Nightmares are not my favorite tag team, and that has nothing to do with Dustin Rhodes. I think Dustin Rhodes, if he was paired with like a young up-and-comer, like, that could be a great tag team. And I love Dustin in the ring. He's so crisp. I do not give a fuck about QT Marshall. And I don't think AEW has done anything to, like, make me give a fuck. I want to just point out a lot of the times when we don't care about these wrestlers, it's because they haven't had any real stories or any real personality that, is there to connect with us, other than, like, this guy's Cody's friend, obviously. But so this story that is apparently playing out is that the bunny is, what's her actual name?
Allie.
So Allie has somewhat defected, or is just not kind of with the Butcher and the Blade these days, and she's been kind of hanging out with QT, and Brandy's really not happy about this, and because he's like making out during matches or something like that, and like Brandy's like, keep your eye on the goal, QT. I'm like, what the fuck is this story?
You haven't been watching Dark, and Dark is built up QT a lot. QT, he had a singles match on Dark that I really liked a lot.
Okay.
He faced Zach Clayton, and this whole storyline mostly has been playing out on Dark, which maybe speaks to why, like, there should be some sort of catch up happening on Dynamite between what's happening on Dark. If everyone isn't, like, you're a super fan of AEW, but you are also not watching Dark weekly.
Right.
He had some sick moves. There was like QT did a bunch of kind of old school wrestling moves. He hits like a pretty sick like backbreaker facebuster combo. He does this. He does. I don't know how he does.
Did he win the match?
Dude, he does a handspring cutter. Like handspring. It's like a handspring.
That sounds awesome.
It was a handspring to roll over drop kick.
Yeah.
It looks like something Will Ospreay would do. And
okay, that sounds awesome.
But QT's doing it.
Did he win the match?
I think so, yeah.
So what's the problem? What is everyone? Why can't QT get a little bit on the side from the bunny? Do they just not trust the bunny?
There's like a moment. I don't know. Yeah, like I don't know.
It's just such a weird storyline that it's like QT's getting laid.
I think
everyone's
he's like getting distracted. The storyline is he's getting distracted by Allie because like in the match on Dark, they have Brandy get hurt. Like Brandy's on the apron, and she gets knocked off, and it looks like she falls to her hand kind of hard actually. And then QT comes, like Dustin's like, Brandy, are you okay? And QT's kind of like looking over, and then he comes out to check on Brandy to make sure she's okay. And then Allie starts screaming because she broke a nail. And then also on Dark, a funny sub-story. I absolutely love that they keep doing this in different storylines. Allie has designed a new Natural Nightmares t-shirt where it's QT really huge, like standing like a superhero. And then it says Natural Nightmares, and then Brandy and Dustin are really small in the background.
Okay. Well, that's great. Listen.
I'm not like very invested in... I feel like I'm trying to sell you on QT right now. I'm not invested in him, but I do think that they have done... To you saying that they haven't done anything to make you like care about him, I think they have. I just don't know that you like care about what they've done.
Okay, I'm gonna watch Dark because I'm sold on QT being an okay wrestler and being invested in him. That's fine.
He is good in ring, I will say.
Storyline that
I don't like it either.
is doing nothing for me. I don't know. It seems like a weirdly misogynistic storyline to me of this like femme fatale is like distracting him with
dumb.
her like beauty, and I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. But
I was mostly defending his in-ring work more so than the storyline itself, and I do think that they're trying to make you care. I think it's just like not a good. It's not a good use of either of them.
He's just making out with her on the side. They haven't said anything about why she's not with the Butcher and the Blade. So
and they keep prodding her on Dark about that, though.
And it seems like Brandy is like jealous of like.
And ultimately,
Allie.
And I don't think that this is what I at first thought that this was leading to Allie kind of distracting QT, turning on him, and then Butcher and the Blade become the number one contenders or number two contenders. Because they're pretty high up in contention,
but they're not like
they're not even within this story anymore.
No,
there was a time where they were like even back to just early as last week, that they faced off, and it seemed like that maybe the reason she was doing this was because of Butcher and Blade, because Taz and Excalibur keep prompting her to explain what she's doing, but. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. Maybe it'll be over after this week, and we don't have to.
Oh Lord, I hope so. Or that has some sort of banger ending. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Well, the match probably will be good. Maybe you'll get to see QT's sick handspring, rollover, dropkick tomorrow night.
If it's just like if she breaks a nail and then QT turns around and gets rolled up or something like that, and then they lose, I will be very disappointed.
It is lame. I'm with you there.
Shida and Chris Statlander versus Nyla Rose and Penelope Ford was up next.
That
really
match was
good
sick.
match. But what the main storyline I think from this is that Chris Statlander took an injury and is going to be out.
Torn ACL, I think.
Yeah.
Huge bummer. Two of their big women's division stars, Britt and Stat, both sidelined. Both of them, I think, are. It's not good that happened to them, but Britt Baker, it's just done even more for her character to be rolled around and to be in the back of like a go-kart.
Yeah.
Chris Stat also, I think, could do some like Dark Order-esque vignette, like Darby vignette sort of stuff while she's injured. Like that's probably what they'll do.
That would be great. Yeah, to keep her in the story. Looks like Penelope Ford might be getting a shot at the title pretty soon against Shida in what is certain to be an excellent match. Ford has been really shining.
Yeah, I really like what they've done with the women's division, and I'm excited for Penelope versus Shida. She pinned Shida, so I'm sure she'll get. The AEW's made a big deal about her pinning Shida, and then also like named her Wrestler of the Week, and it just seems like they're building up to a Fyter Fest match between the two of them. And it's going to be great. It's cool to see her break out and do sort of her own thing. I feel like her and Kip both. Kip I only I've known through AEW, and have, in the same way I've grown to like Sammy, really love what Kip has been doing, especially as sort of like the valet to Penelope. He's great in ring too, like the stuff that he did in the match with Kenny Omega last week.
I definitely enjoy him as her valet a lot more than the other way around, just because it seems a little bit more like turning it on its head. Like,
yeah, it's not what you expect.
Instead of this like sexy woman valet, you have this like sexy man valet. And speaking of sexy man, Jericho on commentary, I just love how much he puts over how sexy people are. But he's just like, look how sexy your boyfriend Kip Sabian is. How sexy is he? And then probably, Tony Schiavone was probably just like, yeah, he's very, very attractive man.
Like very level-headed, like, dude. Well, and also Jericho throughout the commentary on this sold Statlander as an alien as well. Like
True.
she said something and no one knew how to respond to it. Where he said, "Well, she's an alien, Jim Ross, different powers than human beings."
He's the best. He's the best. Just keep him on commentary until it's time for his match.
And just the way that he so convincingly says stuff like that is incredible.
He just says it with authority. And then you're like, all right, I'm sold. Another thing, my absolute favorite moment of the show was during the next match, Best Friends versus the Inner Circle. So Best Friends, all three of them versus Santana Ortiz and Jake Hager. And I think it was Schiavone who says that one of the men, I think it was Chucky T, he looks like a broken man on a Halifax pier.
Oh, yeah.
And then Jericho's just like, Halifax? You've never even been to Halifax. Those people would eat you alive. And that was amazing. Putting over Halifax hard.
Marc is from Moncton, New Brunswick, for those of you listening and wondering
for the
why
uninitiated.
Marc is hyped up about Halifax.
I'm also in the Maritimes.
That Halifax is just
a quick 2.5 hour drive.
2.5, 3 hour drive from Moncton. I actually didn't know
speeding.
Any of these places really existed until I started dating Siobhan. So
yeah, that's because
many of our listeners might not know either.
Vile swine American.
Exactly, dude. He had Jericho. Like, we could just go through and talk about all of Jericho's commentary for each match. It was as good as the match. He had like such a great line where he said, "My fake brothers are beating up these fake best friends," in reference to P&P beating up Chucky T and Trent.
Amazing.
It's such a good line. And
he also said that Chucky T, he's such an idiot. He doesn't even have a last name. He lost it in a poker game. Oh no, that was Trent, I think. Like Trent Beretta he was talking about.
Well, I guess Jericho killed it on commentary in this match, I think, more than any other match. Like, most of the notes about this match I wrote down are him on commentary. Like, another thing that he said that was really funny was, you know what a cannonball is? A cannonball in Spanish is Excalibur. Like, wanting Excalibur to tell him.
Yeah.
And Excalibur says, no, what is it? And then Jericho just exclaims, I don't know, really loudly.
I don't know! Yeah, he comes out of commentary to beat the shit out of Orange Cassidy. Brings a bag of oranges.
Orange Cassidy a new nickname, Blood Orange Cassidy.
And says Blood Orange Cassidy has just been juiced. That was awesome.
So good. And then, Hager is next in line. Is Hager next in line for Cody's belt?
Yeah,
so is
Hager's
this setting
fighting,
this match
at Fyter Fest.
So is this match setting up anything beyond this, do you think? Jericho versus Orange Cassidy, maybe? Because there was, like, all of the...
Jericho versus Orange Cassidy would be a money match. People would love to see that.
Well, because he said, like, when he was calling out the world's most dangerous man a week or two ago, Orange Cassidy responded to the call back when he was promoing against Tyson.
And Orange Cassidy's been getting a lot of kind of star-building matches against some of AEW's best. Like, he fought Pac. I keep saying Pac, but it's Pac. He fought Pac.
X-Pac.
X-Pac. X-Pac.
X-Pac.
X-Pac.
X-Pac. Pac and X-Pac. There should be a WrestleCon Super Show where they're on the same team.
Absolutely. The 1, 2, 3 kids.
Yeah, it seems like that's Jericho's match for Fyter Fest, I think. Why else would they keep throwing them all together in the way they are? Because now best friends are facing the Sex Gods, right? That's another part of the convoluted tag number one contender title tag match thing.
Yeah, they have their number one contendership for Fyter Fest up for grabs, fighting Les Sex Gods, Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara.
This Wednesday.
They probably will retain the best friends and go on to be the team that fights Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega at Fyter Fest. It is looking very likely.
Yeah, that's what should happen. I mean, best friends are one of the teams that also, I feel like, during the COVID era really were like tearing it up.
Yeah.
And there frequently, so I feel like they should be the ones that kind of go on to get that featured match.
Looks like Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela are going to form a tag team. I am loving putting people who are underused on Dynamite together into tag teams. I think that's a great idea.
Brought us the Super Bad Death Squad.
Absolutely. So Sonny Kiss, who has been barely featured on AEW TV, he might be on Dark. He might have had a couple matches on Dark, but I don't think he's been, other than in the crowd, on Dynamite at all. So it's great to see him in sort of a very well-produced promo. It's making me wonder what AEW's car budget is, because it seems like everybody's getting a car. Moxley, of course,
really cool cars.
Stole the Jericho one. Sonny Kiss was in like some sort of convertible. I'm missing one, but there's a lot of cars.
Cody's truck, Moxley's Lambo or whatever that was.
Yep.
FTR's sick vintage truck.
Yep. What's the car
Sonny
budget
Kiss.
on this show?
Yeah. Well, the budget of a billionaire.
The budget of a billionaire.
Yeah, this promo was great, and I've been waiting. Joey Janela is the first wrestler that I wrote an article about for Torture Racked. And one of the people, in addition to like the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega that sort of brought me back to wrestling through YouTube clips. Like I seen his roof fall, and I was like, "Who is this person that is jumping off of roofs
into a flaming
barbed wire glass truck
filled with tubes? What do you call them?
Light tubes.
Light tubes.
But yeah, he's on him. Back when he and Penelope Ford were together, I wrote like an article about them as the first sort of feature article in Torture Racked. So I have been waiting for Joey Janela to get featured in the way he has, and they've done a good job like featuring the people that like they should have featured up front and at the start, and all these like first champions are the people who should be the first champions. But I cannot wait till Joey Janela holds a belt. I love that he and Sonny Kiss are paired up together. They've tagged a couple times. I don't know if it's ever been on Dynamite, but they've tagged on Dark a couple times together, and they're great.
Yeah.
Just the wild poses both of them do together are really funny. Like Joey does a lot of funny, like in-ring, I don't know, just like pantomime poses. I feel like they play off of each other's energy in a really good way.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a really cool tag team.
Totally.
We got the best Mox promo in a long time. It was great seeing him mad. He was
totally.
Like, shooting on Brian Cage. He's talking about how all this makes him train harder, hit harder, be more violent. I am one miserable son of a bitch. Fucking awesome. And then who comes out but our boy Taz. You gotta get your head right, Moxley.
Dude, you have to start watching Dark just for Taz alone. Like, he rips through Pineapple Pete for some reason.
I love that.
Like, through the whole match.
Just decides he doesn't like Pineapple Pete.
Yeah, but and it's, I think, playing into his heel character, because up until then he has been a pretty even keel, like putting people over, introducing who they are and why we should care about them. But yeah, he goes through and says he like dresses Pineapple Pete down throughout the whole match. And yeah, that the promo he does with Brian Cage. Brian Cage also comes out. There's a moment during Dark, kind of circling back to Dark before we get to the main event of Dynamite. The main event of Dark was Jon Moxley versus Robert Anthony, which is a rematch from their CZW days, and another sort of match that CZW fans. I've never been a big CZW super fan. I've watched matches on YouTube, seen the Vice documentary that was made about it, and have caught it here and there. A lot of great matches, not just death matches, but just was kind of off my radar for a while. But they had a rematch of a match that happened a decade ago where Moxley was CZW champion. He faces Robert Anthony and retains. In that match, he powerbombs him through a glass table, and Robert Anthony's back gets like brutally cut up.
Holy shit.
It's insane. This match that happened on Dark was good. It was fine. Just like, it was a non-title match. It was just a match between the two of them, and it was just kind of a straight wrestling match. It wasn't the best match that I've ever seen Moxley have, but it was fun to watch. And just the reason I know that he powerbombed Robert Anthony through a glass table is because I looked up their matches and sort of was looking at the history of the two of them together, and it's cool that they're letting Moxley and different people do these sort of little blow-offs like this as part of the title feud. The other thing that I wanted to mention from Dark that I feel like you should go back and watch is Jurassic Express versus Cutler and Avalon. You've been talking a lot about, I feel like throughout, since we started this podcast, just the tag division and people not doing tags and not sort of like appropriately following those rules, or like what are the rules if there are none. And this match specifically, it's just a really good tag match. One of my favorite tag matches in AEW of the year, I would say. Like, in my mind, my favorite tag matches that have happened so far in AEW this year probably would be Young Bucks versus Omega Hangman, Butcher and Blade versus FTR, Jurassic Express versus Cutler and Avalon.
So you're telling me that Brian Cameraman Cutler from BTE and Peter the Librarian Avalon are a tag team now, and they're ripping it up on Dark. That's what you're telling me.
They are, yeah, and they're in a feud. They're in a great long-term feud to see who can get their first win first. And Marco Stunt
I love that.
Marco Stunt rips it up in that match also. He does a lot of cool. Like I feel like he's doing a lot of. And I know Marc is someone that you were not totally excited about to begin with, but he's I feel like done a really good job also in like building an offense that makes sense for his size, doing a lot of like evading and then quick moves in response because he's hard to grab and hard to get hold of.
He doesn't bother me that much because he doesn't win very often against like bigger dudes. My problem with Marco Stunt was just that I felt like he made Jurassic Express, and this doesn't make any fucking sense what I'm about to say. He made them too cartoony, and I know it's already a tag team with a dinosaur.
Seeing them all together now, though, I really like it a lot.
Well, you've sold me with the Luchasaurus action figure with Marco Stunt and Jungle Boy sitting on each of his shoulders.
That needs to happen.
You've sold me on that. But after, just to finish up on the Dynamite section there, Moxley and Cage had a really cool sort of street fight. Backlot brawl, on some cars and stuff. This episode of Dynamite has been fantastic so far, and it leads into just a great main event between Cody and Marq Quen. Marq Quen of the Private Party, a tag team that has not been getting a lot of wins, and it's really cool to see the standout member Marq Quen be presented as a single star and be put on the same level as Cody. People talk a lot about Cody burying talent, but it just does not happen. Really, in each of these matches that he's going to have, he's been putting over this talent huge. He put over Jungle Boy huge by just letting him go toe-to-toe with him and take him to the limit last week. And the same thing happened with Marq Quen this week. It was great to see that Private Party have a new theme as well.
It's definitely an improvement.
Definitely.
Better than this is a private party and you're all invited? Or you're not invited? Whichever it was. Not for me.
Not interested in that old theme, but the new one's really cool. This match had a lot of great stuff. Huge avalanche belly to back from Cody. Corkscrew DDT. Shooting star press over the top rope that Marq Quen hit on Cody outside the ring. Just some amazing stuff here.
The whole match was really awesome. Yeah, it felt to me, not necessarily, I don't want to say a make or break moment, but just like this is a moment for Marq Quen to step out and sort of like establish himself as someone that is not just like a tag person.
Part of a losing tag team also.
Yeah, a singles star. And I know I've read a lot of things like kind of championing Marq Quen and his abilities, and it really, like, he really came through in this match. It was. I would
put Marq Quen on that list of the young stars, like we always talk about Darby Allin.
Totally.
Sammy Guevara.
Sammy, Kip.
Yeah.
It's a whole like
next generation.
Bubbling like upper mid card, soon to be like main event talent in like 2 to 3 years, like or sooner. This match was great.
One of my favorite Dynamites of the year. Anyone who's looking to dive in on an episode, I felt like all the characters really came through for me. I was there. I don't remember when this happened, but there was even a Dark Order. Oh yeah, the Dark Order came out after Colt Cabana lost his match, and Brody Lee was there, and finally Evil Uno and Stu Grayson were together. It worked for me. Like they were all together.
I forgot about that. I knew that there was a moment. I liked that a lot. It's a good to bring that up actually, just because like if you and I both have not been the biggest fans of Dark Order, I feel like they're coming together. It's cool to see Uno and Stu Grayson with Brody. They feel like a strong faction. It's what they needed. They needed Brody and Stu Grayson and Uno together.
And just to come out all together and just be like, we will help you at his lowest moment after this loss.
And that happened on Dark as well. Performer named Lee Johnson fights number 5. And the match was cool, and they watched on, and Brody, like the sort of underlings of Dark Order are watching, and then at the end of the match, Brody comes out and tells him to finish the job, and then he does, and then he wins. So it seems sort of like what you were saying, where it's like we need to see these wins. We need to see Dark Order getting people wins.
Totally.
And that happened
proving their salt.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And that, I think Colt Cabana to Dark Order would be a good idea. Like he'd be
great because he's already kind of his own thing. I think he would bring his own unique wrestling ability to Dark Order. They seem a little interchangeable at the moment, and I think that's just how they're being presented. But someone like Colt, who's so kind of recognizable in his like body frame and like the way he does moves, it would be cool to see how he would meld into the Dark Order.
And he's so different. He's not like dark or spooky. He's like a journeyman, positive wrestler, like very happy, very excited to be in wrestling. So it would be cool to see him sort of maybe develop a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
Be winning matches through the Dark Order's guidance. Him and Brody together is not something I would have thought of, but they would be a cool tag team also. Like give Brody like a solid sort of number 2 outside of the tag team, Uno and Grayson.
I love this idea of like the tag teams, you know, being solid, but also being able to compete as single performers, like Trent getting some great matches, and now Marc Quinn doing single stuff, because the tag team roster is so huge at the moment that if you could only be a tag team, some of these people would be buried for a while other tag teams are sort of getting the rub. So it's cool that they're able to sort of break out and sort of do their own things. And like you said, it makes everyone seem like a main event star. Whereas in WWE, all the tag teams seem like interchangeable mid-carders.
Yeah, they're not, they don't matter really. And it's not like, oh, I wonder if he's going to win. It's like he's definitely not going to win. So can this either, hopefully this match is fun to watch or forget it. Whereas in AEW, there's a lot of potential for a lot of different people. There's like literally like 5 years of people to be champion right now without adding anyone to the roster. And we need to get through like Lance Archer, Pac, like all these, Kenny Omega, like all 3 of them should hold the world heavyweight title.
It's really exciting to see how this is going to play out. It also means that the mid-card title, the TNT title, is going to be a really prestigious belt to hold, because we might very well see Pac coming back to challenge for that. Pac versus Cody, that would be a great match.
That would be a cool first match back for him. Yeah. Even have him come in and win. Maybe Lucha Bros could be tag champs at that point.
Death Triangle holding the belts. What is really unfortunate is that this Dynamite that we watched back on Wednesday is kind of foggy in my mind, whereas crystal clear in my mind is the WWE Backlash show that we watched last night.
Which was just last night.
I have no energy to go through the mid-card.
Oh, yeah, I think that wouldn't be a productive use of our time anyways. Overall, I don't know, overall, up until probably halfway through Randy Orton versus Edge, I basically was questioning why we both were messaging each other, but we both questioned each other, like, why are we still watching?
Why do we still watch this
events?
And it's so funny because John actually pitched not very long ago, watching like all the Raws and SmackDowns, and I think just this pay-per-view package card totally dispelled that notion, because we got to see all the stories leading up to some of this stuff, like the Jeff Hardy and Sheamus, like Jeff Hardy's really tasteless sort of alcohol abuse, drug use, DIY.
Very hard to watch that.
Very hard to watch. Watching them just bury Asuka versus Nia Jax. They got a double count out. She's got a visible pinfall already from, I can't remember who it was, if it was Charlotte. They're burying Asuka, even though she is the women's champion. They're not letting her have any wins. It's tough to see. Braun Strowman in another handicap match versus Miz and Morrison. We had to sit through a very cringeworthy Miz and Morrison music video that went on for way too long. Finally, there was Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley, which was actually, up to that point, easily.
That was a cool match.
I that match, excellent.
I loved that match, and the match that happened on SmackDown, AJ Styles versus Daniel Bryan.
Oh my god,
was an incredible match. I can't think, in my mind, I can't think of another wrestling match that has happened in WWE over the last couple of years that I like as much as that match.
Well, certainly on TV. That's been the best TV match that they've had. This should have been on the Backlash card. We've talked about it quite a bit. We're pretty sure that they put this match on SmackDown because if they hadn't, it would have been better than the Randy Orton Edge match, which they've already billed as the greatest wrestling match ever. So you can't very well having a better match on that same card. That is going to be so obvious. But
I will say, during that Intercontinental title match too, commentary was not as annoying as they normally are. They built up the importance and prestige of the Intercontinental Championship, talking about how Ric Flair, The Rock, HBK, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Pat Patterson all have held it, its importance, why it matters. And then, AJ Styles wins that match Very highly recommend that match. Very much worth watching.
Very much do not recommend the Street Profits versus the Viking Raiders, which turned into a weird Saturday
That was the
morning
match that I
cartoon.
was like, dude, I don't think we keep watching this anymore.
I do not want to take people through this match, because if I do, it's going to sound fun and more fun than it is. Like if I told you that in the middle of this segment, Akira Tozawa came in with a squad of ninjas on motorbikes, this might sound like a fun time, but it really wasn't. It was just cringy. I buried both teams, in my opinion, and just makes...
The internet seems to love this match.
I don't want to talk about it. Listen, we were weirded out when people were loved the Boneyard match, because we thought the Boneyard match was like really cheesy. This made me long for the Boneyard match, like for something of like a Texas Walker Ranger
WWE
quality
anymore.
Yeah. And
the greatest match ever was great. Also,
yes. Listen, we were making fun of this match at the start. I was saying to you, like, I can imagine them planning this match and like Orton being like, all right, then I'll put you in a headlock, normal length, say 2-3 minutes. And then you put me in a headlock, standard headlock length, 5-7 minutes. And I was saying, like, imagine being able to edit this match, piping in crowd sounds to this match, doing all this stuff to this match, and still leaving in like a 4-minute headlock. Like, that seems like a strange moment for me. But you know what? As the match bared on it, and it was a 45-minute match, and usually these kind of big overblown matches, like let's say Triple H versus Batista or something like that, these really huge star, long bloated matches, I don't like them. But this match really did build. At one point, they were just spamming Attitude Era finishers.
Yeah, that was really cool. Edge's rock bottom was great.
Edge's rock bottom. Randy Orton hit the pedigree. Pretty weak pedigree. I was saying that Triple H was going to be pissed because Randy Orton buried both the pedigree and NXT in 1 week.
Totally.
That's going to be a blow-off WrestleMania match that'll go on for about an hour. And
with Lumberjack WrestleMania match with NXT being the Lumberjacks, Triple H versus Randy.
Oh, that would be awesome. And then everyone just beats the shit out of Randy Orton and slap their legs the whole time.
Yeah.
I have to say, I thought it was such a ridiculous move to call this the greatest wrestling match ever, especially as a follow-up to what is arguably the worst WrestleMania match ever, which was the Edge versus Randy Orton. Again, a match that if I walked you through it and was like, hey, yeah, they brawl in the gym, and then they brawl here, and then they're on top of a truck, and then he hits him with the concerto. If I walked you through these spots in this match, you'd be like, oh, that sounds pretty fun. And it would be fun at 10 minutes, but the match was 50 minutes long. So most of it was just them walking and huffing and puffing and stuff. And it was absolutely brutal.
I did household tasks as that match happened.
Yeah, it was brutal, but this Edge Orton match, it paid off.
Delivered.
We gave it an A-. Certainly not the best wrestling match ever. Probably the best match on this card, although, like we said, Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley was awesome. But most of Backlash was a wasteland. And I was telling John how it pisses me off that they can pull off a couple great matches at the end, because it almost excuses these things. And it's like Vince will never learn if the pay-per-view ultimately is like okay in the end.
Well, because the last Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley and Edge versus Orton was worth watching the show for. And there's a lot of other wrestlers that we both love in WWE, which is why we continue to watch WWE.
Although we made a list of all these wrestlers, and let's start to go through them. Some of our favorite wrestlers, I would say Aleister Black, Shinsuke Nakamura, Kevin Owens, Andrade, who else?
Sammy.
You just said Sammy.
I can't think of anybody else.
All right, well, that's at least...
You named most of my favorites.
None of these people were on this card. And now that Heyman's gone, they pushed Apollo Crews' U.S. title match to the mid-card. Or sorry, to the pre-show. Mm-hmm. And I didn't see this match, but what I have heard is that in an hour-long pre-show, this match ran for 7 minutes. And it's like,
That doesn't
why?
surprise me.
Why can't you have more wrestling on your pre-show? You have an hour. Like, you could have 30 minutes of analysis and still have like 2 15-minute bangers or 1 30-minute like classic. But they just refuse to do it.
So are we going to watch another WWE event next month, do you think?
Of course. We're gluttons for punishment.
Extreme Rules?
Oh, man. Extreme Rules actually was a kind of a stellar pay-per-view last year. Just want to say that after Backlash, episode 4 of The Last Ride with The Undertaker started to play, and I watched the first 20 minutes of it or so. I planned on watching the rest, but my internet just kept crashing. I wasn't sure if it was me or the WWE network, but there was some really fun behind-the-scenes stuff of Undertaker recording early 90s promos with Taker like cracking up between takes and stuff, and it's things we absolutely would have never seen otherwise, because in the show it talks so much about how Taker lived his gimmick and always went out in black, didn't do TV show appearances that he thought would kind of compromise his character, more or less missed out on a bunch of stuff that he could have done just to be the Undertaker. So there's absolutely would never have been bloopers like included on anything.
There was only like, I remember like late 90s there being only like maybe 1 or 2 times where Undertaker was not even out of character, but just interviewed outside of like a WWE produced thing.
Right, and he's just like, fine, good.
Yeah, he doesn't really speak in full sentences. He just says like single word sort of things.
So I think
I
I'm
need to
going
go
to
back
watch
and watch
The Last Ride. Yeah, because it actually looks really cool.
I watched some of it. I feel like that's like the best sort of content WWE produces is those documentaries. They're all good.
Oh, the behind the scene documentaries are
WWE
awesome.
24, 365.
Meeting Kevin Owens' parents and stuff is so cute.
Yeah, they're really, really great. Like the Morrow documentary, like all of them are so good. I went back. You brought up Extreme Rules being good last year. The card is absolutely stacked from last year. Nakamura, the opening match was Nakamura versus Balor.
That's what it was.
Gulak versus Tony Nese. Is this last year? Wow. Undertaker and Roman Reigns defeated Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre.
What is it? The Dogs of Hell?
No Holds Barred tag team match? Oh, Dogs of War.
Dogs of War.
Revival defeated the Usos. Aleister Black defeated Cesaro. Bayley defeated Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss. Braun Strowman defeated Bobby Lashley. New Day defeated Bryan and Rowan. AJ Styles defeated Ricochet.
Card. Yes, that's what it was. Man, how much has Ricochet been buried?
Main event. That's where he's
That's
from.
the other guy we didn't mention. That's how much he's been buried. Is we
I couldn't even think
to mention
of
him as the people who are not even on the card.
Dude, and he ripped it up in NXT. That Lucha Underground match that Thomas showed us that he was in, absolutely
Prince
mind-blowing.
Puma.
Yeah.
I love that. I love masked Ricochet.
Same, yeah. That
super cool.
match was really cool.
I would love him to come back with a mask because he's been buried so much and just be somebody else.
And not wear his like wetsuits.
I have no, like, I would, if I was Vince, I would have buried him just for that. Just for wearing those weird wetsuit. It was like he was supposed to be a superhero or something, but like, you know what a superhero has is abs. That's what I've learned from all these Marvel movies.
Well, if you look like Ricochet.
Yeah, you are a fucking superhero. If you can do the kind of moves he can do off the top ropes, you don't have to exaggerate that.
The last 4 matches on this card, Kevin Owens versus Ziggler, Kofi Kingston versus Samoa Joe, and then this last part I don't remember either. Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch defeat Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans, and then Brock Lesnar defeats Seth Rollins.
Sorry, was Seth Rollins in 2 matches in a row? Is
yeah.
that what you just said?
Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch have their Universal Championship and Raw Women's Championship on the line. Oh, and then Lesnar does a cash-in. Cashes in his Money in the Bank. And
Lesnar, let us not forget that Lesnar last year won the Money in the Bank in a match he wasn't even in. He just came from the back and climbed the ladder and took it. And somehow that was storyline okay. Do you remember this?
I do. I don't understand it. Dude, earlier this week, while I was watching Dark, this is the other reason why you have to watch Dark. I woke up super early last week and put on dark but fell asleep. And then when I woke up,
because it was too dark. Should have put on AEW Light.
it was like, I think for like 5 in the morning or something. I was like definitely not starting my day. I woke up then and put on dark. And then when like on YouTube, and then YouTube autoplayed, and the show I woke up to was TNA Lockdown 2009.
Oh, interesting. What was on that?
I woke up to the last 2 matches, which seemed to be like, I mean, I went down and looked at the whole, I went back and looked at the whole card.
What were the last 2 matches?
Last 2 matches, the second last match was the main event Mafia, made up of Kurt Angle, Booker T, Big Papa Pump, and Kevin Nash.
My God.
Facing Chris Daniels, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, and Double J Jeff Jarrett.
Oh, I love that, actually. It's like these invading guys versus the homegrown TNA talent. Well, not homegrown, but
yeah,
you know what I mean.
Was a really good match, kind of. I don't know. There was...
There's no way that Nash was good in that match. You cannot tell me that Kevin Nash was good in that match. I don't believe it.
No. Big Papa Pump throws down some sick moves, like top rope superplex, top rope Frankensteiner, like right in a row.
Oh, really?
Like back and forth.
I wasn't sure if he could still go at that point.
Yeah, no, he's probably the best on that team. Booker T is good too.
Booker's always been good.
But it was fun. It was more fun just to see all of those people interacting than it was to actually see the match itself. The match itself, probably like a C. And then there's a surprise debut at the end. Bobby Lashley comes out, and it's a really big deal. He seems like a monster. He looks terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun to watch. And then the main event of that show was Mick Foley versus Sting. Again, not the greatest match, but the promo and package was cool to see. Plus, it's like Mick Foley against Sting in a ring together is just like a very surreal thing to see. I realize that probably, like, in retrospect, that's cool to see, but at the time, it's like, this is why everyone hates TNA. Like, why are Mick Foley and Sting both in the main event and not AJ Styles or Daniels or Samoa Joe?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was...
Well, it's an interesting artifact of that time of just these kind of random matchups of, like, people who are pissed off at Vince McMahon.
Yeah, it made me want to go back and watch more TNA matches, because I didn't watch any of it. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that the only TNA I seen was the one time I went to Universal Studios and saw it live.
While we're still on the first run of Supercards, maybe we should just book a TNA Supercard and do that.
Let's do it. Yeah, I think we should. We've done so far Lucha Underground. We have not done New Japan because there's too many good matches. So we've done
WCW.
I still don't know the best way to do a New Japan Supercard.
I still think it needs to be very specific, like either Okada Supercard or like the G1 Climax 2019 Supercard. You can't, because you can't say what are the best NJPW matches. Like, I haven't seen that much, and I already know that.
Yeah.
Speaking of NJPW matches, I watched your classic match recommendation, which was the Great Muta versus Hulk Hogan from Wrestling Dontaku 1993. Hulk Hogan is in full skullet mode.
What did you think of the match overall?
I thought it was excellent, honestly. Starts out with Muta disrespecting Hogan. I loved having the Kevin Kelly commentary on this. I'm not sure if that's why you recommended it to me, because it's on the NJPW website, but Kevin Kelly's been going back to all these old matches and putting English commentary on top of them, and it was so invaluable. Talked about how maybe the last time Hogan was in Japan, he won the Wrestling Grand Prix, beating Inoki in the finals. So that was very interesting.
That match
just
was
right
good
away.
too.
Yeah, I can imagine. I that's what I thought you were going to recommend to me, actually, when you started talking about Hogan.
I just wanted you to see more Muta matches, because I don't think you've seen that many of them. And this match was such a spectacle and clash of different wrestlers
styles
from such different backgrounds.
Traditions.
Yeah, it's such a cool match.
I could immediately tell that we were in different Hulk territory, because he first takes down Muta with a really cool armbar, but like he just like jumps onto his arm with his leg. And immediately I'm like, okay, this is a different Hogan. There's a lot more mat-based techniques, a lot more submissions from Hogan. Very cool to see.
Hey, he grapples in New Japan. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's in control for a lot of the match. One point, Muta crawls under the ring and goes all the way to the other end. Comes out. I thought that was pretty funny. One piece of commentary that stood out was that Kevin Kelly said that earlier in the year, Hogan, the WWE champion, had said that the true belt to hold is the IWGP Heavyweight Championship from Japan, which really like raised a lot of eyebrows in the US. I find it very cool that Hogan would have said that, like,
Yeah, totally.
And New Japan is the more prestigious title to hold.
And even just going back, like, that tradition of, like, wrestlers going to Japan, fighting for that belt, it's still such a prestigious, like, thinking of in recent memory who has had the belt too, Kenny Omega, AJ Styles, like these huge, larger-than-life superstars
Totally.
from the West that, you know, are now...
The Gaijin.
Exactly.
At one point, Muta starts clubbing Hogan with the bell hammer.
That part's
legal
wild.
question mark. Did
New
not
Japan
get
refs
disqualified.
decide.
Yeah. They're brawling outside the ring. Muta gives Hogan a suplex onto the ramp and then runs to the complete opposite end of the ramp and then runs back and hits Hogan with a clothesline that brings him inside the ring. Into the ring, Muta reverses an Irish whip from Hogan, sending him into the corner, and then hits him with a sweet back handspring elbow. Takes Hogan, gives him a backbreaker, goes in for the moonsault. It is not looking good for Hogan. Hogan kicks out of the moonsault at 2, but then is hit with a drop kick that sends him out of the ring. Hogan he's hurting at this point. Muta throws Hogan into the barricade, and then grabs onto this rope ladder that is outside the ring for the lighting rig and swings into Hogan for a drop kick. Hulk is on the run at this point. Muta hits him across the spine with a steel chair. Hogan's in pain. The ref tries to wrest the steel chair from Muta, which distracts him long enough for Hulk to hit him with an axe bomber clothesline. Now Hogan is fighting the ref, trying to get the chair from him, only to be greeted by a green mist from Muta. Hogan's down. Muta's on the top rope. Goes to hit him with a flying press. Hogan sidesteps. Muta's down. Hogan hits the leg drop. That's got to be it. The leg drop's one of the most protected moves in the wrestling business. 1, kick out at 2. Hogan hits the big boot and the axe bomber once again. That's the 3 count. Puts down Muta. A- for me. Really fun match. Great to see Hogan using his match skills, and like you said, to see him in a clash of styles against the Great Muta.
I absolutely love his finisher in New Japan too. The Axe Bomber. It's such a cool name.
Such a cool name. New Japan just has the names for sure.
Just him throwing down that clothesline with such intensity is so cool. In recent memory, like Shingo Takagi, his clotheslines, it feels like that kind of a clothesline. Like a lot of intensity behind it. Very, very cool to see. That match is one of my favorite, like, classic New Japan matches, just for how, like, remember when I first discovered it, just being so mind blown to see Hulk Hogan in a wrestling match like that, where he's really using all the skills he always had, and then he just doesn't have to do that in WWF and in the States, so he doesn't.
Totally. It's just seeing him in a different context is so interesting, just from a different lens, and being genuinely shocked when Muta kicked out of the leg drop.
Totally.
Like, yeah, I was like, what?
There's a great match too where he is teaming with Muta against Road Warrior Hawk and Power Warrior, and he takes a bunch of moves from the Road Warriors of Japan, and it's just so weird to see Road Warrior Hawk throwing down moves on Hulk Hogan. Like, that's just not something I feel like you would see happen in WWF.
Oh, absolutely. Are you ready for your classic?
Yeah, lay it on me, man.
John.
What is it? I can't wait. Give me the year.
Lay it on you.
Year first.
1989.
Whoa, okay.
You ready for this?
Give me the promotion.
No.
Okay.
NWA.
Oh yeah, I probably haven't seen this. What is it?
It is the beginning of the original greatest trilogy in wrestling history. The Best Bout Machine, Ricky Steamboat versus the Rainmaker, Ric Flair. Chi-Town Rumble, 1989 for the NWA Heavyweight Championship. So the first time I recommended a match because you talked about how you didn't really like Shawn Michaels that much. So I made you watch the Shawn Michaels Chris Jericho match from 2008. I was pretty sure you hadn't seen. You had made an offhand comment about not being the greatest Ric Flair fan recently. And so I thought I would recommend this Ric Flair match to you, which is fantastic. And it also will set up me being able to book a later match in that trilogy into our WCW Supercard. So some of these matches I'm recommending to you are matches that don't quite fit into Supercards that I want to do, but are integral matches to watch nevertheless.
Dude, I am psyched to watch this. One thing that I find myself watching a lot, like really late at night, when I can't sleep, is old Mid-South matches.
Oh, where do you watch those?
I've not seen this. Amazon Prime has endless... For some reason, it's like buried on Amazon Prime, but if you search pro wrestling on Amazon, at least in the States on Amazon Prime, there's tons of Mid-South and like old like Nashville wrestling promotions as well. It's cool to see. Yeah, like Nashville, Kentucky, sort of 1980s wrestling promotions. And yeah, it's something that I find myself watching a lot just because I love the graphics. I love the sound. The crackle of the old sort of production is great. So it'd be cool to watch this NWA match. I've not... Yeah.
That is actually... thank you so much for saying that, because I actually forgot. One of the things I was going to bring up about this match is that it features career high work, in my opinion, from three people. Ric Flair, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, but also... good old JR, Jim Ross on commentary.
Oh my God, awesome.
I give a lot of shit to in recent days on AEW television. I make fun of him a little bit.
He knows the Butcher plays bass.
He knows the Butcher plays bass. He's a little horny sometimes.
Give JR a break.
He doesn't know all the names all the time, but he is still the voice of wrestling to me. When I think of commentators, it's good old JR, because I watched it in the Attitude Era, and it's been great watching WCW matches and hearing his commentary, and it's really great to hear him on this call on NWA, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts about it.
Looking forward to watching it this week.
Well, you know what I'm looking forward to? The release of issue 4 of Torture Wracked.
Coming soon.
It's going to be hitting the shelves very soon. We're going through our final revisions here.
I think I'll probably post a pre-order before we actually have the
Oh, nice.
issues in hand to get
I've seen the whole thing, and it's tremendous.
Yeah, thank you for copy editing it. Excited to have it wrapped up. Excited to go through it on here also as well.
Totally, yeah. So next time, hopefully we'll be able to take you through some of the articles and just give you a little bit of an idea of what's in store for you. That's been another episode of Torture Wracked. You can follow my co-host, John F. Malta, at John F. Malta on all social media. You can follow me, Marc Basque, at Waste of Taste on Instagram. You can follow Torture Wracked at Torture Wracked on Instagram. Thanks for being here, John.
We'll see you in the ring next week.
Oh, see you in the ring, buckos.